financial markets rarely move by a country's regional elections, but Germany is a very different story right now. So says Alastair Newton, senior political analyst at Nomura. I'm pleased to say he joins me now. First of all, I want to start by asking you how much pressure the defeat in this state election is going to put on Merkel's coalition.
Well, I think it does put pressure on them, Maryam, but the coalition was already under a lot of pressure. Two critical issues here, as I see it, is first of all, yes, Angela Merkel has certainly been weakened by the election outcome, particularly Baden-Württemberg, less so Rhineland-Palatinate. But at the same time, we should keep in mind that in the second of those, in Rhineland-Palatinate, the other coalition partner, the FDP, failed to get across the 5% threshold. So this is a big problem for Guido Westerwelle, the Vice-Chancellor and leader of FDP. It's not just a blow for Angela Merkel. Both coalition partners are, to an extent, struggling after these election results, in which, to be fair, the only big winner was actually the Greens, because the SPD also saw its share of the vote reduced in Rhineland-Palatinate.
So what does that mean? How do you see the possibility of the coalition breaking up?
I think it's very unlikely right now. I mean, to start with, there is no serious challenger to Angela Merkel within the ruling coalition. The resignation a few weeks ago of Zu Gutenberg, the CSU former defence minister, has effectively removed the most likely candidates for a possible coup within CDU-CSU. And there is absolutely no reason at this stage why Angela Merkel should be looking to early elections. Keep in mind, elections not due until September 2013. Now, for all that, where she is going to continue to struggle is in dealing with the upper house of the German parliament, where the opposition now has an increasingly large majority, and further state elections later this year may well see the balance swinging still further in their direction. This could have an impact certainly on policy over Eurozone, but as you've remarked earlier in the programme, the big issue here is nuclear power. I do think that Merkel's going to have to seriously rethink her policy as a result of these election outcomes. And in many respects, one could say that she has been the first electoral victim of the tragedy which took place in Japan a little over 2 weeks ago, and of course is still ongoing today.
OK, so you said that the big theme in this election was nuclear power, energy. What are the implications for energy policy in Germany, given that both the Greens and the SPD oppose atomic power?
Well, I think basically I'm going to speculate a little here. I suspect we are going to be going back to the position which was the position of the previous government, in which, of course, Merkel was the Chancellor, but in coalition with the SPD, where there will be no extension to the lifespan of Germany's existing nuclear fleet, and we certainly are not going to see new nuclear power in Germany. So I think we're basically looking for a phase-out of nuclear power along the lines which was agreed by the previous government. Now, I'm sure there are those in Germany who would like to see nuclear power phased out more quickly than that, but whatever their aspirations may be, given that nukes account for around 20% of Germany's electricity, you can't just switch off nuclear power overnight and switch to alternatives. It will take time for the alternative sources of electricity generation to be brought online to replace the nuclear fleet.
And now, Alastair, you were saying that this weakens, that the defeat in this state election will significantly weaken Merkel's position. Just to broaden it out a little bit, what could this mean for those politically sensitive decisions when it comes to bailouts in the euro area?
Well, we need to keep firmly in mind that Germany as a whole, including the main opposition parties, remain firmly committed to the European project. However discomforting it may be for the German electorate as they see it to be paying for the profligacy of the peripheral states. There is another way of looking at that, of course, and maybe that will come to light more clearly in June when we see the outcome of the second round of bank stress tests, and that is the extent to which actually German taxpayers are underwriting the undercapitalisation of the European banking system, including, of course, the Landesbanken. But for the time being, we are likely to see continuing difficulties pushing conclusions through in Germany. The June Council meeting has now been set for the final definitive moment in the bailout package. Let's see if that actually does come to pass, bearing in mind that there's a number of political hurdles to get over between now and then. And let's keep in mind this isn't just about Germany. The Finnish election may also have played a significant role in the somewhat inconclusive outcome of the European Council meeting at the end of last week. Clearly, we will get that out of the way before the June Council meeting as well.
An inconclusive outcome, as you say, Alastair, and there really is increasing pressure on finance ministers, on European leaders to come up with some sort of comprehensive solution to the sovereign debt crisis here in Europe. And now we're seeing mounting anticipation about Portugal needing a bailout, fears that Spain could go the same way. If we do see disagreements and divisions deepening within the coalition in Europe's most significant economy in Germany, what is that going to mean for the ability of the euro area, of European leaders to be able to make decisions to resolve the crisis once and for all?
Well, to a significant extent, I think all the relevant bits and pieces are in place to bail out Portugal if, as markets have long believed, Portugal actually does get to the point where it does need a bailout. And certainly the events of the last week have, I believe, hastened that moment where Portugal will have to be bailed out. There is no problem in principle as far as EFSF is concerned with the necessary finance for that. The question is, as again you remarked earlier in the programme, whether somebody in Portugal, one party or another in Portugal, is prepared to stand up and say, contrary to what we've been saying for the last 3 months, yes, we do need to bail out Europe, and would you please help us? It's either that or the Europeans do what they did in the case of Ireland and basically do a bit of arm twisting. The sooner the better in many respects, because if Portugal does drag on, then there is, I think, an increasing risk that markets will move on to Spain. And the relevant bits and pieces are not in place yet for the Europeans to have the cash available to bail out Spain. That will depend on EFSF's lending ability actually being definitively increased to the full 440 billion, which hasn't been done as yet because of the inconclusive outcome of last week's European Council meeting, where, honestly, the Europeans again missed an opportunity to get ahead of the curve, and I hope they're not going to come to regret that in the coming weeks.
Well, there you go. Really enjoyed your analysis. Thanks very much, Alastair Newton, Nomura International. Thanks very much.